The south of France, first of all. Controversy over a paper there that's publishing crime figures by ethnicity.
That's right, which is illegal in France. Le Progrès de Lyon, with a rather politically incorrect and tasteless and perhaps even criminal infographic that they put on the front page of their paper today. Delinquency and organised crime, everyone has their activity depending on what group they belong to. And what group they belong to, what they mean by that is your ethnicity, what kind of a housing estate you live on. So, for example, burglaries are more committed by Georgians, Albanians, Roma, etc. You have, and it's broken down there into all sorts of different kinds of crimes. Braquage, which is armed robbery. You're more likely to live in a housing estate or be a drug dealer if you do that. And then, petty crime, that's more likely to be Roma and travelling community. Prostitution, you're probably Bulgarian, African, Albanian. You can see what a sort of storm that would quite likely cause in the media and amongst politicians. And indeed, SOS Racism, the French-based NGO against racism, have indeed taken court action against the newspaper. There is a 1978 law which bans ethnic and racial profiling, and so there's even the question of how they compiled those figures. It seems that they used some sort of a police report about tracking the origins of gang-related crimes, which were traced back to certain other countries in Europe, so that was part of it. But also, just anecdotally, they asked the police, who do you think is more involved in this or that? So it was clearly not a very scientific piece. But the Front National was quite pleased with it. Now, bearing in mind that most people were obviously very critical, Florian Philippot of the National Front congratulated the paper, saying that it did its job by reminding us of the impact of mass immigration and the impact it has on the various different kinds of criminality. Lovely stuff there.
Of course, publishing stats like that wouldn't be illegal in certain countries, but that paper has perhaps not chosen
That's right.
subtle method.
That's
okay.
right.
You're talking about the National Front there.
Yes.
Femen railing against them, calling them
it's
fascist
great
via body
It's great
paint.
when they kind of face off with each other. It usually leads to images such as this one here, where it is, of course, upcoming European elections, and they were starting their campaign, the right-wing National Front Party, and it was a chance for the quite activist, sextremist, as some people have called them, feminist group Femen, to paint swastikas on their chests and remind everybody that they think the National Front is a fascist epidemic. Now, it's interesting that this fascist finger pointing going on here, because for the National Front, it's Europe that is a sort of a totalitarian entity. And if you're looking for a bit more mutual fascist finger pointing, you only have to go to Ukraine, where this article in Mashable.com sort of has a similar theme going on today, where Hitler or Putin is becoming Putler, in a nod to Hitler, for a lot of people in Ukraine. But then if you're over in Donetsk, in the east of the country, which is a lot more pro-Russian, of course, it's the interim president of Ukraine over in Kiev who is being drawn with a swastika on his head. So an awful lot of fascist finger-pointing today, Chris. Some of it merited, some of it, or perhaps a little merited, some of it not at all.
Okay, we're off to the Vatican next. Pope Francis has got a decadent new neighbour.
That's right. Pope Francis, everyone will remember that he is famously humble, a sort of a poor papacy, a papacy that is more directed towards poverty. He wears an iron cross instead of a gold cross. He lives in a 2-room apartment, 70 metres squared. So very...
But his neighbour doesn't.
But his neighbour doesn't. Cardinal Bertone, the former Cardinal of Milan, who was a sort of the Prime Minister of the Vatican in the time of Pope Benedict, he has now moved into a 700 metres squared apartment, which is somewhat more luxurious. It has apparently made Pope Benedict, or Pope... help me out here, Pope
Francis.
It's made him furious because it obviously ruins the whole PR at the Vatican. He apparently has a staff of 3 nuns he has to house, so perhaps he needs the extra space. But on social media, people have been drawing him driving around, decadent corridors in golf buggies because it's such a big space. And he's also being photoshopped. Well, I think that's not even a Photoshop. I think he just likes to wear Ray-Bans.
3 nuns, indeed. Finally, Muppies, the new Yuppies.
That's right, it's the new buzzword that I've found going around various websites. Muppies, the new Yuppies. It doesn't mean half Muppet, half puppy, or mutant Yuppie. It means millennial Yuppie. So essentially, internet-obsessed people who are likely to tweet while they're watching Game of Thrones, or who take pride in having more Instagram followers than you. In any case, it is a word, it is a new buzzword. You have generation X, Y, Z, and now it's it used to be muppies, now it's yuppies. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But when I Googled it to get more information on it, it appears that muppies.org is actually for the Muslim Urban Professionals Association, which leads me to suspect that there are probably some muppies who are muppies, which maybe makes you a muppy square. Anyway, enough about muppies, and I'm not sure if it'll take off.
James, thank you very much. That's what we have time for. That was Media Watch. Do stay with us here on Live from Paris. I'll be back with the headlines very shortly.